Welcome, welcome back, and welcome home. My name is Melissa, and I will be your multi-density cosmic tour guide today. We're going to do a little bit of channeling. We're going to do some serious channeling, and I've had requests for both of these people to channel them several times, and that's not always easy. This one's a little bit intense, and we've got Jon Benet Ramsey, and we've got Nicole Simpson. I'm also seeing Ron Goldman. So Ron Goldman was the beautiful young man that was murdered alongside Nicole Simpson at her house, her friend. So 3 people. Jon Benet Ramsey is going to talk, and she says, "Hi, my mom's with me," and her mom's name is Patsy. So she's saying, "You will know who killed me." It's almost like all the years we were like, didn't Lee Harvey Oswald kill JFK? And then we realized there's no possible way that could happen. And, lots of scapegoating and Patsying. And Patsy says yes. And so Jon Benet Ramsey is saying it's astonishing that she was made almost like the scapegoat for the trauma of the collective consciousness of humanity in this era, just like Anne Frank was in Nazi Germany era, in this era or decade or era, she's calling it, or cycle, that she was made it's almost like the blaspheme or profanity toward innocence, toward Christed innocence. And she's saying it's really sad to know that became your normal. And she became a household name. We all know who she is. And she says, "I'm alive and well in spirit." And she says, "You will know without a doubt who killed me, and it was not my family members." There were doors left open, and just as it could have been any of us. And she says it was not what the media or people keep leaning toward. And she says, "You'll know." And her family is, a lot of them are alive still, and so it's very hard to be in a position to not exploit them. And she says it was just tremendous suffering for everybody. And she has always been connected in heaven. She said she was a normal little girl that had a lot of energy and had a lot of things going on. She had a lot of nervousness and anxiety and bounciness. And she said to be the poster child for truly abomination toward the innocence of humanity is sad. But she says, in this, I will help unwind in these next days. I'll help unwind the idea of murders being normal, family members murders, the girl next door being murdered normal, the beautiful people being harmed. And she says her passing was almost like accidental or very strange. And she said it was some people, it was a bigger conspiracy or a bigger complex plot, plan, campaign, and those lower energies or entities, the controllers of the elite, flipped a switch and made her, it's almost like be the gash or trauma to innocence, or our inner child. And she's saying, so I got to heal and work with many, many, many millions of people through this experience and being famous or well known for this. And she says, even though I wasn't physical on earth, I was there. And my parents really were asking for balanced, honest integrity in the justice systems. And there was a lot of debauchery and botching up of things. And there were a lot of good people too. And she says she knows that it has harmed everyone's heart, just like Anne Frank, knowing about Anne Frank in the Holocaust times. Her story, her truth, her book harmed our hearts, all of us, wounded our innocence, and gave power and almost like feeding those darker energies or entities or principalities. And she said, I'm well, and so God helped her pull back her truth, her energies, just as we are all doing in our own journeys, our own life paths. In some ways, we are going through things that are painful, causes a lot of suffering, losses, and griefs in us, and we're calling back our power, our energies, in wholeness and our divinity. And she says, so I got to help people from spirit who were going through similar things or having such incomprehensible, painful things. And she's pointing at me, saying, you as well. And she says, I'm alive and well. And she says, when my mom crossed over, it was a homecoming. It was, she wasn't perfect either. None of us, none of you, none of those people are perfect in anyone's eyes except for God, source creator. And she says that was wonderful, and we understand why and how this happened. And she says the unwinding, the backwards, it's almost like backwards motion. Sometimes when we're doing energy clearing, if you can't like clear or cleanse or transmute a piece, and it's just really taking a lot to work on, you sometimes reverse the energy. So like in the chakras, if there's an access point of dark energies coming in and out, or because we're all gateways and the gatekeepers. And she says those dark energies, those controllers and the powers that were, that no longer are, knew this. And so she says it's, you can kind of reverse that energy and learn it or perceive it backwards, and you will see the truth. And so I was like, what? When she said this, but it's a little bit understandable because I've always seen everything backwards from the beginning of my existence here as Melissa on this earth, and cosmic tour guide, of course. And she's telling the truth with like the reversal. Not that you're doing magic or spell work or anything, but things that were blocked and traumatized and stuck, imprinted in you. Sometimes if you reverse it a little bit, I never recommend send it all back to senders, and expect that I know the senders, because then you get entangled sometimes. Sometimes not, but entangled sometimes. But she says reverse it and ask that that Christian energy come into you and remove the block and reverse it. And sometimes you have to work on it for weeks, months, years, pieces in us. And she says this is a soul trauma of the entire collective that is so severe, and it was designed to be that way. And she says, I'm alive and well in God's hands. God did not leave me behind. And that is not my destiny. That is not my truth. That is not actually what I'm actually famous for, is being murdered and being the beautiful little girl. And she says, so I'm not just a little girl, and that is not just me, my only definition, just what you know about me. And she says, it was not my parents, it was not my family members. And so there's something hinky that was going on. She said there was a lot of things going on in the house, and we were all, she says, we are all bougie, a little bit bougie. And the guilt and the pain that was embedded in all of humanity with her death many, many years ago is being gradually pulled out, and our inner children are being healed. And she says there's no big explanation except that I was just the poster child for harming you. And it certainly wasn't her will, her choice, and she gave no consent. And so just like all of us, we have said no, we've asked for help, and gave no consent, and still got hurt, lied to, betrayed, stabbed, wounded, and broken. And little pieces of us have been dimmed or unalived in some ways. And she says, call back that power. And she says, you'll know why, and how it could never happen again. All of us are coming home, and she says when her mom crossed over, it was a really warm celebration, welcoming, and they're really happy that the dad, for the rest of his time here on earth, is living and thinks about her and talks about her, and his wife that passed, and their son in really good ways. And so she's saying thank you to him, and that she loves them, and she's alive and well. And Patsy has got a big smile and kind of very well put together self, looking in her energy, and she says, me too. I'm grateful, and I wouldn't wish any of those things that we all went through, losing Jon Benet or the way she passed, the confusion, and I wouldn't wish any of that on anyone. And she says, so it gets to be unwound out of humanity, and so that those things like that will not be in existence. And she says it sounds ridiculous, but things like that in the near future for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will not be in existence, because we wouldn't allow and ignore and silence people being victimized or hunted or stalked or anything like that again. That's very normal here. And so those things in the deep core wound will be let go of. We wouldn't put up with killing and abuses of children especially. And so they are saying we're coming back into those places where our tribes would recognize and take good care and protect the children. And so Jon Benet Ramsey is saying, take care of your children and keep them safer than we were. And tell them the truth. And whatever they like, whether they like being in beauty pageants, or they like horses, or they like football, or they like music, you owe it to them to help them learn and receive those creativities. And she says, God won't leave you behind, no matter how hard it's been, how hard your life has been, how broken you are, how judged you are. God will not leave you behind. And she promises this. She says, I know, I'm the speaker here. So the mirror effect of being the poster child of being murdered, beautiful little girl being murdered, that we all know her name. The opposite mirror is that she gets to say no one can judge you anymore. And with each pulse of the divine universe coming back into order, those possibilities or those functions where we allowed it and ignored, and people being murdered all the time constantly, and children being harmed, abused, or unalived, is not going to be in our new earth energy. So she says she's glad she got to be one of the last poster children for losing innocence. I came here, it's almost like with her magic Christed self, to bring back a big receiving of our innocence today in pure love. She says, I'm all right. And she says some of the things were staged, and some of the things were very confusing, and as people who were always, the family was always on, and very social and kind of socialite vibe, this is not bad. This was just their choice of who they are and how they learned and their home. And she says, I loved my home and I loved my family, and I had a really hard time. I had anxieties and some things that were happening that were very hard for me, she says. And she says, I'm not blaming. I'm saying I'm free. And the things that are in you that cause you anxiety and suffering and pain, that innocence is shining bright through you, and you will be free of those things as well. She knows the energies are super weird. And she says, by the way, I do know Christ. And she says, I do know different beings who have similar stories. Anne Frank's, Jon Benet Ramsey, that and billions of other children that have gone through wars, suffering, losses, abuses, and unalivings. She's saying, in dimming of the light, don't forget who people that around you that are jealous, that'll demonize you, or that you're too pretty or too cute in their eyes, so they want to hurt you. She says those things will not be tolerated, and certainly have been watched, and God always knows. And she says, so we're unwinding those pieces, and she's got to meet others throughout time in the heavens that also had those martyrdoms and stigmas as well. She goes, like Jesus. And she says, I'm not saying I'm Jesus, I just know Jesus. And other people that have been dimmed or taken out for their beauty, their innocence, their love, their Christ. And she says, I'm alive and well, and I want you to know that I can see you, and you're all of you who have been working on yourselves and following your healing journey. She says, really good job. You guys have been courageous. And she says, just know that who she is not the image of who we see her as. She says, I'm much greater than that. And so I am not stuck, or I'm not stagnant. I do not dwell in that place of being unalived in brutal, sadistic, gross ways. And she says, in spirit, it is, but I know, very clear. That's not what I'm about. I'm not about that. And she says, I'm alive and well. And she says, dream big. Each of you will realize some purposes and things. And she says, you will know, without a doubt, who killed her. And she's adamant that it is not her family members. Not exactly. And she says, I don't live in a place of guilt. I live in the purified layers of the heavens and higher dimensions. And she says, so do you. All of you exist here too, and you came also. So when we're on earth, we sometimes are here for particular purposes, ugly ones and beautiful ones and loving ones and hateful ones, as we are adjusting into wholeness and coming back into wholeness in source. And she says, it's time. All the people that lived before us and all the people that have gone through horrible things, died in wars, died of plagues, died of many things. And those things are still being projected out into the energies. And there are many people walking around that would be absolutely willing to function in predator, psychopath form and harm children and harm you, me, us, them. And she says those things are being blocked, and please know you're being protected. And so no matter what happens in the near future, that is not your legacy or your destiny. Your legacy is being built, and God's seeing it. And each person that's ever lived is being freed from some of the worst core traumas, or also the worst core imprints or programs of sin. And the most profound sin would be curse, would be the Cain and Abel. killing the brother for the money, for the clout. And so if there's anyone around you that wants your money, your clout, your beauty, your husband or wife, or your belongings, or wants to be like you, wants to take your essence and your energy, just know that that is being seen and scripted. It's in the real, true, higher Akash. And this will be the last time. So if there are those beings still here, she's saying a prayer that I like to say sometimes, and part of the prayer says, until that seed of that particular serpent or the reptilian or the dark energies or the dark controllers is no longer here, is deceased, dismissed, till the seed of that hatred and unaliving and abuses of children and things like that are unseeded out of us and gone. Then we shall see it happen, unfold here on earth. But we play roles, and sometimes we came here to illuminate it and illuminate some things that God, like our purpose is to illuminate things for God. And she said, I did my job really well. And she says, welcome home. You guys are rising up. And she says, I can see your beautiful soul songs from here. She says, I'm alive and well. And she says, I'm a many-dimensional person. I'm not just a little girl. I'm free. She's holding hands with Nicole Brown Simpson now. And Nicole Brown Simpson says, thank you. I am also free. And Ron Goldman is nodding his head. And a funny thing happened. Many people have asked for both of these people to be doing channeling. And when OJ died last year, it was on my birthday, and I was in Roswell, New Mexico, being cosmic. You know how I am. and loving the stars and the cosmic things. And I was like, what do you know, for my birthday, the predator, boom. And she said, it all along with the show of after her death and the many years of us seeing court and the Bronco driving down the street. I mean, we all remember those things, and that's 30 years ago almost. And she says it was a terrible tragedy. That also what Jon Benet Ramsey was saying is that's normal and that's okay. And everyone's like, oh, well, let go, shut up. And she said, I lived and I knew that this was going to happen. She says, so it's pretty obvious. It's been pretty obvious who killed us and how. And she says it's in spirit, it's nothing that she needed to hold on to. She is separate from the predator. There's no domination. There's no abuse that can follow her there. And so she's forgiven and stuff like that. But she was the poster woman, and Ron Goldman was the poster person also for, husbands kill wives and friends. Oh, well. And that's the normal celebrated behavior of humanity around here. And so she said, I'm free, and so I don't live in that space, and I don't live in a space of having to relive or murders. And she said, many of you who are living, the dark energies try to keep you in trauma, try to degrade you, call you names, and take you back. And she's pointing at me. So some of the things that being targeted, there's a grouping of people that studied me and set me up, and they sell me to dark webs and stuff like that over and over. I've told you this a million times. But one of the things they do is they'll send pictures and words of people that betrayed me, or there's a group of people that just harass me constantly from my home origins area. And they send pictures and things that I privately said to, like, a boyfriend that I loved very much, but didn't love me back. He was just a predator, and I got kidnapped and hunted like an animal for years by the guy that lived down the street from that boyfriend 30 years ago. And so the SWAT team had to save me. So I've lived through extraordinarily evil, violent things that most people should not live through. And so they send me pictures of the guy that kidnapped me in 1989 over and over with smiles. And my friends and family and stuff just are like, oh, well, that's funny. That was your boyfriend. And I'm like, that was a serial killing psychopath. And then they try to set it up again through another person and a group of people, and they still do that. And they harass me and threaten me and make up stories and demonize me and call me names and have tried to destroy me and stolen millions of dollars. And so what she's saying is, you don't have to be stuck in those places. I'm like, I know. Over and over I heal and I do my stuff and I move. And, I'm obviously not going to have any assistance. There's plenty of evidence. I mean, like a lot of evidence. And it could have been stopped a long time ago. But maybe the rings and the things like this that are so evil, and people go, oh, well, shut up, and, silence you. So the victimization, like they just set you up for the victimization to continue. It's almost like just not caring. And she says, so that is sad, but I work with people from Spirit and Ron Goldman as well. Like he's an innocent bystander. He's just a friend that was hanging out. We all do that. We're like, oh, let me stop by, or do you want to have lunch, or do you want to go dancing, or, even if it was someone she was thinking, he's really nice, I really like him, I hope he's my boyfriend. Like we all have those phases with people. And he was just there and got killed. And she says, I knew this was coming. I was hoping it wasn't to end my life, but I knew it was coming. And he had mentioned that before. And she says, I came here to help protect those of you who have gone through abuses and people that think they are dominating or mind controlling you or hunting you, or people who are willing to hurt others. And she says, and only function in that way. That's all they are. And she says, I'm free from that. And so I come here to help you open the doors out of that trauma as well. So Jon Benet Ramsey was also saying something similar, but not exactly the same. She says, yeah, so the story of both of us, as well as Ron Goldman, were never really told. And that's okay, because they're private people. They're their own people. The whole public, we don't deserve to know. And that's part of the exploit. And she says, all I cared about were my children. And I lived a little bit of a rock star life there. And I did love OJ very much. And the cycles of abuse and the cycles of knowing he would never let go. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that a million times from that one. I will never let you go. And things like that. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And she said, that's only available on earth in this physical density. You are free. God always knows. And she says, so I get to be almost like an earth angel from Spirit to check on each of you who have had so much abuses or victimization. She said that goes in different places, like in war, like people under duress at all times because there's war or they are enslaved in some way. And she says, so those strongholds and those demons that were placed upon us are being set free. And so just know that you are noticed and known in the heavens for who you are. They can't steal your clout. They can't steal your truth, your fame. They can't take your light. They can't take your innocence. They can here in small ways, but they're going to set us free from being in those cages and those root core painful pieces. And she's saying, none of us ever deserved anything like this, but we don't hold that. We see the bigger picture as all of the rest of humanity are freed. And she says, thank you for knowing my beautiful heart, knowing I'm inside. She says, I learned so much when I was alive. And Jon Benet Ramsey was saying, yes, me too. She was very energetic and learned things that were just right for her. And Ron Goldman said yes. And so they say all prayers are heard, all of them. And so she said the billions of people, the billions of prayers that were sent to both of these families, groups, Ron Goldman, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Jon Benet Ramsey. She says Jon Benet's leaning in and Nicole is smiling and saying, we are safe and we are free. And so are you. Those prayers, those energies are pushing out those harder things that we should really hope our children never know about. And she says, again, there's a recourse, a connection or correction of source to bring back balance and justness in this universe. And so we were just, we had soul contracts with God and ourselves to be here in these certain times and die in these certain times and be kind of public, even though it was really a lot of exploit. And she says, so we'll know how to do it in the right way, and that we nurture and love one another, and we would never ignore or silence a person being victimized anymore or having a hard time, traumatized, mentally imbalanced. We wouldn't just shove them away. And she says, you guys are doing a good job being very courageous. And she says, it's absolutely 100% you will know who did what. Small things, big things, famous things, not famous things. And we'll see the group mentalities that are willing to harm and other people because they need the group mentality. They need other people to pick on one woman or one little girl or one person, a knowing, innocent person. Groups of people getting together and campaigning and doing things and plotting. And she says, that will not be tolerated anymore, is Nicole Brown Simpson. And she says, I love my children and I do not want to exploit them anymore. Can you imagine what it would be like? It's almost like the cameras are on you at all times. Someone knows your mom was Nicole Brown Simpson, and neither side of the families really were like, yeah, your dad sucks. And, like he had custody. He had, those are his children too. And so the confusion of being a sibling, a mother, a father, a child of any of these people must have been extremely hard, but they walked it and they have been walking it and they will walk it. And she says, I know that I am celebrated here on earth, and I thank you because I learned a lot. And Ron Goldman said, I love my family so much. My sister is my best friend still, and I will never be separated. None of us will be separated from our true families, our soul tribes, our souls. We are safe. And it's going to go a little differently in the next era. And Frank is saying, coming in and leaning in and saying, yeah, we're pulling away those programs. And that's what you grid workers and people that work on healing for all these years, many years, pull out those programs, those seals, those attachments, those demons that were placed upon you. And she says it wasn't about letting go. It was like, what wouldn't let go of us? And she says we get to activate this energy in all of you so that we can no longer be victimized. We can no longer be dimmed. And that's the reunion of God in us. So I wasn't expecting Anne Frank to step in, but Jon Benet Ramsey saying, I'm safe, I'm free. And she says, I'm many things here. I'm many levels and layers. I'm grown up, I'm a child, I'm in many levels. And she says, I'm back to my wholeness, my earth angel, my angelic self. And Nicole Brown Simpson is saying yes, that as well. And things are balancing out, and justice and balance as God sees fit, Source sees fit, is unfolding. And unfortunately, for us, there are so many losses and pains and things in our lifetimes, but we get to protect the children, and we get to protect our brothers and our sisters and our mothers and our fathers. And Nicole Brown Simpson is saying anyone that's ever been through things or lost a family member in a horrifying way or a non-horrifying way, just know that you can never be disconnected from true love. And they may be a little bit different in heaven, but they are pure and whole and home. And if there are any lost souls, there have been many that have been working on. No one will be left behind. No one. And as those shadow pieces or phantom pieces, God will restore us in every way. The phantom pieces, the shadow pieces that were not ours to hold. The stories, the movie lines, the stories of our lives that were not ours, that were not meant to come into any higher. Like if you've been praying for heaven on earth, and you want a time of peace, you can't take in war with you. You can't take in hate. You can't take in hate of another group or division. So they're saying this has been clearing, and we played our roles really well, and our roles have been cleansed and cleared, and we're free. And so are you. Everybody knows who killed Nicole and Ron. And apparently, just like JFK and all different things unfolded where we kind of understand a bigger picture, so we shall for Jon Benet as well. And some of the other people that have unsolved cases as well, is what they're saying. And they're saying, we send love and happiness. Remember to laugh and don't feel guilty because you have a little bit longer lives or a little bit of laughter in your life. Just know the guilt and the shame, and you'll be free of some of those things. Both of these groups get to work on that with you and me and all of us in the collective. Thank you guys for all of the likes, shares, and subscribes, and tuning in with me as we tune up our soul song. And I must say, welcome home. Welcome home.